The next item on our agenda is a follow-up item. And at one point, we were going to make this a little bit more of the focus for today's meeting. And we had a similar discussion around public safety with the governing board just a couple of weeks ago. And I want to just start this by sharing a video, and that I think kind of encapsulates some of this discussion. Let me pull it up here. Give me just a second. Sorry, I should have had this ready to go, but I didn't think I was going to be conducting. Okay, here we go. Let me share my screen. So some of you may have seen and heard this. It was a report on Fox 13 News just a few weeks ago about a pretty serious bike accident. So I'll just share this real quick.
Several weeks ago, one South Jordan resident was on her morning walk when she heard yelling behind her, and next thing she knew, she was hit by an e-bike. Now, she hasn't been able to return home due to those injuries. I'm Carolina Hassett, and officials tell me they've seen an increase in these incidents, which leaves the question of what needs to be done.
I know he was trying to avoid running over me, but inevitably it just happened. And I fell down in the ravine and he ran over me. Next thing I know is he's going back the other direction.
Nancy Brisbay has been walking on the Jordan River Parkway Trail for 10 years and has never experienced something like this.
I knew that there was something definitely wrong with my legs.
But that changed on August 12th when she was hit by an e-bike and has been staying with relatives since due to her injuries.
Tibia and the fibula are both broken. In two spots.
Soren Simonson from the Jordan River Commission says these accidents have been on the rise since the pandemic.
There's just a lot of congestion on the trail as it's become more popular over the last several years. And with this proliferation of more mobile devices, it's just creating lots of issues.
On the Jordan River Parkway Trail, e-bikes are allowed but must be ridden using the pedals instead of the throttle, since motorized vehicles are not allowed.
That's one of the challenges, is that we have 100 jurisdictions across the Wasatch Front. They all establish their own regulations.
He added that speed is the biggest contributor of these accidents.
Speed limits are not well established. There's blind corners, and when you meet somebody going the other direction or even the same direction, but they may be moving slowly, that creates unsafe conditions.
Simonson says they are working to get more established speed limits and are encouraging residents to read signs and pay attention to their surroundings. South Jordan PD last told us they were still looking for the person who hit Brisbay, but she's thankful bystanders were able to help her on the trail that day.
I was angry the first few days because I kept seeing his face constantly. You know what, there were way too many good people there. And that's just kind of how I looked at it.
In South Jordan, Carolina Hassett, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Okay, so that's setting the stage a little bit. We are seeing a lot of accidents. We're seeing just a real proliferation of different kinds of motorized devices. The volume of complaints that we're seeing at the Jordan River Commission has grown significantly, and I'm sure many of the law enforcement agencies in different jurisdictions are probably seeing and hearing a lot of the same things. So we had a really great discussion at the governing board meeting a couple of weeks ago on this topic. We actually had somebody from Salt Lake Valley Emergency Communications Center, Matt Schultz, who joined us to talk about some of the challenges that they have with responding to injuries and accidents and things like that, because sometimes it's difficult to know where people are. There is some location service available through mobile phones and electronic devices. But sometimes when people say, I'm on the Jordan River Trail and I need help, it's like, where are you? And people often don't know where they are, geographically, what jurisdiction they're in. And sometimes there's trail on both sides, and which side of the river even are you on? Because if you go to the wrong side of the river with an emergency response team, you're close, but it may take 10 minutes to get around to the other side to get to the person. So what the governing board discussion ended with was they would like to have our technical advisory committee form a work group and work through some of the ideas associated with public safety on the trail and develop some recommendations that they might consider adopting as kind of some standards. I've listed on our agenda today a few topics that we've discussed. These include maybe some recommendations for how and when different kinds of motorized vehicles and devices could be used, speed limits, trail widths, addressing blind corners and how to address safety in those very specific locations, wayfinding and ways to help identify where you are on the trail for emergency response, and just general information, and perhaps others. So this is intended to be a discussion, and we'd love to hear your thoughts about, are there topics that you think should be part of this working group? And then we want to organize a work group for those that have expertise or background working with trails and public policies and things like that with your organizations that you're involved with. We'd love to get this working group formed, and maybe over the next 3 or 4 months develop some recommendations that sometime after the first of the year we would present to the entire TAC for kind of final consideration, and then forward a recommendation along with other parts of our design guidelines we've been working on to the governing board. So let me open it up for discussion. Maybe we can do just kind of a rapid fire roundtable and get everybody's input on this. If you have thoughts or ideas, we'll capture this in the recording, and Ren will capture these in our notes as well. And feel free to put anything in the chat if you prefer to do it that way. Anyone want to kick us off?
This is Laura Haskell. I was kind of thinking along these lines as it was being presented about the dual trails, one on each side. I was kind of wondering maybe we could do a trail that's more for higher speeds and one that's for slower speeds in those areas. I mean, that doesn't address it on the entire trail, but I was thinking that would be a good opportunity in those locations to separate out the two different speeds of.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody that's been on the Murdoch Canal Trail down in Utah County, that's exactly what they have. They have a larger path that's more for bikes and faster moving equipment, and then a smaller, narrower path that's more for walking, jogging, taking your dog or your baby for a stroll or something like that.
I agree with that, and some kind of physical barrier between the two is helpful. Most of the time it's challenging, but even just a 2 foot wide, like 1 foot tall, log or something, just to keep people from veering off when they're going fast.
Hey, yeah, Soren, I was going to say, I worked for Pleasant Grove City, and I still live in Pleasant Grove, so I'm a frequent user of the Murdoch Canal Trail, and I know they're having similar issues. We live right by it, and I hear the ambulance probably twice a month from accidents, just because it's an e-bike users. And even though it's a wider trail, they're all over their scooters. So I know they're having similar issues even with wider trails.
Well, I don't think it's all e-bikes. I think these people that are on these competitive spandex bikes are going fast, if not faster than e-bikes.
You're correct.
It's not just e-bikes. It's all kinds of bikes.
And so I've seen near misses, and then of course you have what do they call those little? They're like a motorbike. that they're just
Yeah.
totally motorized and there's no pedal or anything.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of electric motorcycles and
Yeah, the
electric
Sauron.
ATVs.
So whenever you build
Yeah.
a really nice network like the Jordan River and, you know, Murdoch trails and stuff, you're going to get a lot of people on those trails. It's going to increase that volume.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, like you're saying, so in like a separation of trails, like we've done at the Murdoch Canal Trail, is almost something we have to consider in these designs.
Hey, Soren, I don't know if it's
Yeah.
beneficial, but our city, West Jordan, we just started an e-bike committee. It's held up by two of our city attorneys that run it. I sit on that. One of our deputy police chiefs, and because we're trying to solve this not just on parks and trails, but also sidewalks and roads. But
Yeah.
we did learn. I mean, all of those motorcycles we talk about, those the Surons, Talarias, they are already state banned. They're not allowed in any public. So we can limit those out of parks, out of anywhere really. They are considered off-road vehicles and should be in on only legal designated areas.
Yeah.
And so, but
I think
it's just getting education out there. A lot of our police chief said the issues they're having, a lot of parents don't even know there's laws on these. And so
yeah.
kids are getting pulled, and then parents are yelling at police, like, what are you doing? Like, there are laws out there, but education's the hard part.
Yeah. So that's a good point. It's not only setting standards and things like that, but also how do we communicate? You know, how do we educate the public? How do we educate, you know, people that may live near the trail that use it frequently so they understand the rules and the courtesies and things like that. So that may have to do with signage and other kinds of public outreach.
And then
We don't necessarily have to solve it today. We're just kind of gathering what are the topics that this working group should be focusing on.
Well,
So I'm
I
hearing
think
education and outreach is an important component.
Enforcement. How do we enforce
Enforcement.
anything?
Yeah.
I mean, do you end up using cameras or like the speed trap looking things or something along those lines? We have this question every day. Are we using cameras in our parks and on our trails? And we keep moving closer and closer to yes. But it would be
Yeah.
a way to catch somebody on who causes an accident. I hate to say it. Because there's really zero, like she said in the video, nobody ever gets caught or consequences on that. It's not something people see.
Yeah.
So some folks at the at the Three Creeks confluence, they said they were testing out some cameras that would basically have artificial intelligence at night to I don't know what they were going to do with the results, but there are some newer technologies out there that could be helpful, or maybe some lights that come on, you know, just triggered lights, or sprinklers, auto sprinklers that come on if people are in the area.
Yeah.
And then some traffic calming, you know, trail design techniques, which I'm not sure what they are yet. You know, you don't want it to be really hard for a vehicle to get through there where you have all the bollards and everything, and then they get all frozen up and in the winter. But you want to be able to figure out how to slow things down. So some, not turnstiles, but like those where they have bars on both sides that kind of make you kind of take a swerve through in order to slow down. Like, I don't know what those are called, but some traffic calming methods.
Yeah. Okay, those are great ideas.
I got one more, Soren.
Traffic
So we
calming.
haven't
Yeah.
heard, and maybe I missed it. Notification. You know, that seems to be a huge issue on these trails. People coming up from behind and not notifying. You know, somebody walking a dog or whatever. The other day, a bicyclist almost hit me at about 10 miles an hour, where the bicyclist passed between the film crew for the Museum of Natural History and myself, and oh my God, it freaked me out so bad. So had I even heard the person or heard anything, you know, oh my God, that was close. Everybody was like shocked at what had happened. So yeah, notification I think is a biggie.
Okay. Great. We'll add these topics in. I guess the last thing is, unless Matt and Dan, I know y'all are both working in this realm around bike and pedestrian and safety and things like that. Anything either of you would add that comes to mind?
I think it's identification of what type of bike. We talked about that a little bit, but there's like 4 classes of e-bike, and I don't think users understand that there is a difference or even what they have. But in county parks, there's Dimpledale is one in particular that's all natural surface trails, and we've restricted all e-bikes are out except for class 1 e-bikes, which I think is reasonable.
Yeah, I'd echo what Dan said, just designating classes to the right facilities or settings. But Hugh Van Wagenen might be an even better person to ask this to. So I can pass that on as well, since he is our active transportation planner.
Well,
but I know it's a fraud discussion nonetheless.
Yeah.
Sorry.
As we organize this work group, if you know people within your agencies or organizations that have some expertise that have worked around this or are thinking and talking about it, Corey, you mentioned some, Matt, yeah, please help connect us with folks that we ought to reach out to. We'll do some follow-up by email for those that are interested in participating. And I know we have people that are not here today on our committee that are probably have some expertise as well. So watch for some follow-up and by email to get this committee organized. I will just add one other thing that I just picked up. I've seen this story a couple of times, but it just occurred to me today that the reporter from Fox 13, she was referencing a rule. She was in South Jordan where this accident took place near the Shields Lane trailhead. But the rule that she showed on the screen was actually a Salt Lake City rule. So, we've got all these different jurisdictions. They have their own rules. I don't think I've seen any rules posted at any of the trailheads, and those can vary. So I think it just reiterates some of the complexity is that, we've got what is the cooperation, do we have each city with their own standards? Do we want to try and create some uniformity to some of these standards? So I think that's a topic maybe to tackle as well.